What is up, everybody? Welcome to Hobby Hotline Overtime. And my voice will catch up next week. But my name is the DH or Drew, and joining me tonight is Mr. Chris Stalegum. How's it going, dude?
This should be interesting tonight. We're running short-handed, but we'll see if we can get an hour out of this.
Yeah, there you go. And we've got the link, guys. As always, please call in, join the show, give us our come be the third part of Hobby Hotline tonight. But we'll tag team it till then, no problem. Yes, give us some callers here. Chris loves the callers.
We're asking you nicely.
Yes. We might even we'll even do here. I got a couple cards on the table. This cool Sean Taylor Red King of Cards, numbered out of $3.99. And an Alonzo Mourning old school Topps Finest box topper. We'll give away to the caller of the night tonight. So call in, join the show.
And I can add my Easy Pass statement.
There you go. Yeah, hey, I got a couple of those.
I'll dig something up, a surprise.
So. But welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good evening. But how's everything going, Chris? You doing good?
I'm doing all right. So what do you say there was an interesting poll this week.
Yeah.
2.5 months after Series 1 came out.
Yes.
Arguably, the hit of the product was finally pulled at a Walgreens.
Yes.
And that's the 1-of-1 Platinum Parallel of Wander Franco.
And he sold it in the parking lot. I love it.
Sold it in the parking lot.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. I mean, you always see, hey, you could pull the 101s in there, and I've pulled some stuff out of 5. I've pulled some great ones, but never seen a 101 pulled out. But it shows you that everything's in retail nowadays, or everything can be, at least. If it's on the back of the box, they're not afraid to put the big boys in it.
Yeah. And that caused a bit of a interesting reaction on social media.
Big time. And we're going to bring in somebody real quick who can help with this conversation as well. And that's Uncle Rich Klein.
Yeah, Uncle Rich.
Man.
Hey there.
Bail us out again. All right.
Yeah.
Hey there. Only difference, I'm at home instead of the office this Tuesday night. And
that's all right.
I don't know how long it'll be before my lovely Lala Opsa, Charlie, who I lovingly call Charlie Chew. So her other name is Chewy, decides to tell me, Daddy, it's time to go outside. But I'll be here for as long as she allows me to be here.
Nice. Well,
hopefully that'll be another 56 minutes.
Yeah. We sure hope so.
So Chris,
that was a great pull. God bless the guy who pulls that 101 Wander yesterday.
Yeah. At a Walgreens, too. I love it. I mean, like Chris was about to say, I believe, it did caused quite an uproar in a couple of groups. I saw a lot of people complaining about it, that it wasn't in a hobby box, that this type of pull should be reserved for those, blah, blah, blah. But me personally, I love it. I think it's an awesome story for the hobby. I think it's cool when something like that happens. And it gives hope to some of those Walgreens pulls that I do.
Well, I've told the story before, and Chris remembers the story, 1992 Pinnacle Slugfest.
Oh, yeah.
Was released only in retail.
Yeah.
And it
only at Walmart.
It was a huge product. It was a huge insert. And we did the right thing at Beckett and listed the product. And the hobby stores on Sportsnets were all in an uproar. And my comment was, well, instead of being in an uproar that it's not in the hobby, buy the cards if they come walking into your store. Right. Sell them while they're hot. Take your profit and say thank you, and that helps me pay more rent or, buy other stuff. I mean, look, if that person comes walking into my store, I don't have a store anymore, obviously, but if I had a store and the guy came in with a 101 Franco, I would do whatever I could to get a cut of selling that card.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like Chris said, maybe the auto version, but I mean, for the non-autos, for the actual base cards, for that whole set, that's the holy grail, that's the card of the set. I mean, that's what you're chasing after.
And I'm personally a big fan of putting things into retail.
Me too.
Not everyone can afford the $100 I think $90 was I could have bought Heritage this year, 98 tops one. I was offered at 90 in a retail store on a special night. I did buy a couple of Heritages 90, but that's $90 with tax. It's $95. But if you have, and we'll call it $20, $25, it's a lot easier to pay an Andrew Jackson for less cards. You're not getting all the hits, but I'm just as happy with an Andrew Jackson bought box as I am with who's ever on the $100 bill bought box.
And the thing too is that there are a lot of places, and I'm living in one right now here in Southern Delaware, where there are no hobby shops.
Yeah.
Where Walmart, Target, Walgreens is the hobby shop.
Yep.
So I have no problem with tops. I have no problem with retail and hobby specific inserts. You know, the people complaining that why wasn't this in a hobby box? Well, there are already hobby only inserts in this product.
I was about to say, because something else is,
right?
it's awesome. Like,
yeah. I mean,
I'm glad for that person who pulled the card. I think, you know, in our fellow hobby hotline host, Suze, posted how it was a good thing for the hobby that it came out of a retail box in her card chat last night.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We talk about it on this week's episode of the show also. I thought it was excellent. I know it's not, you know, it's not anything type of planned. It just ended up being in there like that. But it's a wonderful thing for retail, and especially as Fanatics or Fanatics Tops, whatever, kind of starts to show their new expanded kind of outside of hobby shop distribution, going into Wawas and Lids and everything, which Lids is carrying hobby boxes. You know, it's cool to see some retail hits. It's awesome to know that type of stuff could possibly be in there.
You know, a couple of years ago when Zion was a rookie, Gary V famously said you could buy a $50,000 card out of a $6 pack, meaning the Zion 101 whatever out of a pack you bought retail. Well, it happened with Franco. It didn't happen, may not have happened with Zion, but it happened with Franco. So out of a $6 thing, I mean, granted, not everybody's going to hit the $50,000 card or the $25,000 card.
The problem that I have with that logic and with that Gary V statement is that it's going to bring a lot of false hope to people. It's going to bring a lot of people that are ripping packs hoping to find that $50,000 card and wind up with a lot of disappointment.
Oh, so I get that.
Maybe that might not be. That's one negative I see out of.
Right, and I get that totally, but the hope, we buy lottery tickets. Powerball is $421 million. I've bought some Powerball tickets. The odds of me winning, well, it's probably the same odds of me, you know, whatever. But you have that hope that you're the one that cashes in. So as long as we have that hope, I think it's okay. I understand where you're coming from, Chris, and you're looking at this from your logical, almost day job point of view.
Yeah, I am, because, you know, the lottery is for suckers. I'll just say it at that. The
lottery is the ultimate sucker bet.
Yeah, it is a sucker bet. Just like paying $100 for a hobby box of Tops and expecting $100 worth of value.
There you go. Well, what do you think about having up at Lids? Like, when I saw the announcement, I expected to see Series 1 and maybe some Heritage and mega boxes, things like that. What do you think about, I mean, I know at least in the one in Chicago having, and I've seen pictures in other places, F1 Hobby, Inception Hobby, lots of hobby boxes being allocated to now a retail outlet store like Lids.
Are they really hobby only then, those products?
That's what I'm saying. Like, is it a hobby box anymore?
I think a lot of hobby dealers would be upset with that, because these are marketed as hobby only products. And now you're selling them, apparently you're selling them at under the price of some of the more prominent.
Yeah, it was listed. It was listed in store. Inception was listed at $160, and Blowout currently has them at $170. So I mean, right there.
Just remember the MLB store last year had Topps boxes for sale. And they were cheaper than the hobby stores. Granted, you had to live in New York City. Right now,
were they hobby boxes or were they retail boxes?
They were hobby boxes. I'm pretty sure, if I remember this story correctly. But again, they were a little under. Again, as you pointed out, though, if you don't have a hobby store near you, and you walk into Lids, you can buy a hobby product. I don't have a big problem with that. Here in Dallas, where I have a card store 5 minutes from my house, I have at least 5 card stores within 30 minutes driving distance. That could be a little bit different. But if I live, Herman lives in Georgia, and he says, I think there's one store now, but there's no real stores in Georgia.
45 minutes to an hour for me. I mean, for a legitimate card store, 45 minutes at least.
Yeah, I'm 90 minutes away from. There's a card store in Newark, and then the closest good card store is Bel Air Sports Cards in Bel Air, Maryland, and that's 2.5 hours. So,
by the way, John Keating in New York pointed out that they still have boxes at the MLB shop. He was there yesterday.
Wow, interesting. And shout out to Mel over at Bel Air. They definitely run a great shop up there at the card bar over there at Bel Air.
And granted, New York City does not have a lot of hobby shops in it because, the real estate is so expensive to even rent a sports card store. But back in the day, and when I say back in the day, it's 20 years ago, when I say we as baseball card dealers used to actually be able to set up on the sidewalks of New York and sell cards, because cards were paper goods, and there was a tradition where the newsstands, being paper goods, could be on the street, on streets. So then you could sell cards and books and all sorts of paper products. And I bought hobby products in the mid '90s on the streets, on the sidewalks of New York City. I mean, it's so wherever you can get cards is a good thing. And if we want to grow the hobby, at some point we have to, and that's why I never got as upset about Walmart or Target or having it, because as Chris pointed out, he's got to travel a good distance to get to a hobby store, and he's got a lot of contacts. He can do mail order, he can go to shows. He's in better position, but not everybody has all those outlets.
Right.
Well, here's another thing too. If we're going to start seeing cards at every lid store in America, at every Wawa within 75 miles of Philadelphia, you're going to have to start making a lot more product. And now we're starting to get into, I don't want to say junk wax levels of production, but it's getting kind of close. And the fact that it took 2.5 months for the Wander 1 of 1 to emerge, imagine how much Series 1 has been opened in that 2.5 months. That's a lot. And there's still a lot of it out there.
Oh, absolutely.
One small correction. I read the article about the lids, and they're only currently scheduled, even when it goes to full bore, to be at 500 of the 1,200 lid stores. So that's about half. I know, for example,
that's another 500 locations
where I walk is not yet scheduled to have cards, even with the even on the second pass through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't also think we're going to see a massive variety. I think we're going to see some of those basic, more retail specific sets that are at least high in retail. I don't think you're going to see tons of hobby products at all these stores. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see Wawa having Inception behind the counter and stuff like that, so I don't think you're
not going to see Inception at Wawa.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to have to worry too much about that along the lines outside of stuff like, I mean, I'm sure you'll see quite a bit of opening day there. I'm sure, there's a lot of things that they can put out and put into those areas where a high production number should be expected these days, at least to my eyes.
No.
There you go. Brian Bertrand brings up a point. They don't have to make more product at all. They'll just stop dealing with distributors. That's that's definitely an option. I don't think that's gonna happen, but we'll see.
I think the
I
goal
don't
is
think
to
Charlie's
eventually
yet
cut
ready to
out
go
the middleman.
outside, but I
Mhm.
figured she came in here so we can
Oh.
make her a star for a minute.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, that 70s show brings in a great point. They don't want to be a card store. They want you in and out fast. Their business model thrives on getting people in and out as fast as possible.
Right. And if you have packs at the counter at Walla, oh, let me buy this pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll get me all the time. If you have a pack at the counter and it's tops and it's a fat pack, I'm grabbing one every time I walk up there.
Yeah, and it's 16 packs for $3.49. It's a quarter a card.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to, you're not going to win at that price, but you're really not going to lose because, I mean, a basic Topps card's a quarter nowadays. So buy a couple packs and at least you have some fun opening cards.
Exactly. And apparently maybe pull a Wander 101.
Yeah, well, maybe not Wander, but maybe you'll get the Trout 101.
There you go. Well, guys, make sure, please, if you have any questions or comments, put the link in the chat a couple times and put it in again. Please feel free to call in with any questions you do have. We'd love to address anything that you guys would like to talk about. But
this is your chance to pick our brains.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, in useless trivia, Diana Taurasi and I share a birthday, so I do, when I see Diana Taurasi cards cheap, just buy them. So good pickup on that. She's definitely one of the great lady basketball players of all time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, she is.
And I love when he said he picked it up for less than what it costs to grade a card with SGC. And there's a lot of that going on. I think that's speaking about markets that are underdeveloped, we'll call it the inexpensive grading market.
Yeah.
Even if they end up going where I think they're going to go, which is $20, $25 for value grading.
Right.
I know Nat Turner has publicly said he'd like to go back to the $12, but I wonder if that ship has sailed.
It has.
But even Beckett says if you want cards without subgrades and you're willing to wait, it's now $30 a card, and they can take cards again. SGC's been cranking, I believe, at the $25 to $30 level, and CSG's doing well. So I think we're starting to see some normalcy.
Yeah.
But if you've got a decent card, and it's a $10 card, you'll never get that card graded again for that price, probably.
No.
And so that could very well be a future market where that supply will eventually go away.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know I've got 3, we call them legacy orders that are well over a year old that are all values that I would never in a million years send the cards in at $25 a card. Every single one of them that's in half of these, 100, 200 card subs. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. What do you think, Chris?
You're talking to a guy who doesn't get his cards get his cards graded. So, but on the question of grading, it appears to me that PSA wants by getting out of that $20 to $25 a card grading level and having their lowest price be at $50. It seems as though that they're trying to elevate the PSA brand into something of a luxury item, a premium product. I mean, yeah, you can send your cards to BGS for $20, but we sent them with PSA. This must be a better card. So
the reason I say PSA will go back to $20, $25 pricing is supposedly from the numbers I read, the current breakdown is 85%, we'll call it legacy grading, 15% current grading.
Yes.
And eventually that number, they're doing a yeoman's job of catching up.
Oh, yeah.
But eventually that will change by the end of the year, if not sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And they've hired all these people. And I guarantee you at $20, $25 a card, they're making money on the grading process, even with all the steps they have to take.
Easily.
And as John pointed out, they'll get some upcharges too. So I'm I'm convinced they'll go there because if they have any sort of we'll use the word corporate heart. If you've got good employees, you don't want to fire them for no cause of their, when I say fire them, the euphemistic layoff, but you don't want to have to let them go for when they're through no fault of their own.
Right.
If they're doing a good job, you want to keep them. If they're good graders, you've got something good there. So lowering the price, you're continuing to make a profit, and you're keeping, your employees.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's a natural step to end up with $20-$25 pricing.
Yeah.
As I said, I think the $12 pricing has,
that's gone. That's gone.
That's gone. But $20-$25, I think, is reasonable.
Yes. And I think you will see that by the end of the year. I talked to a PSA rep weekly, and that's where their heads are still at, I know, internally. So hopefully we get back to that 2025 level soon. Kevin Jones, I think a lot of people learned a tough lesson with bulk subs over the last 18 months. Yeah, you got to remember you're not the only person subbing 20 Kobe White Prisms. I'll agree there, Kevin, on one thing that a lot of people, as someone that deals with bulk submissions, I will agree that there's a ton of people that got into grading and subbing that had no clue about grading, the process, did no research, just heard about grading, saw that they could get more money for it and send it in with absolutely no clue of what they were getting into. So, I mean, there's millions of them out there.
So if you're looking for a graded Gavin Lux or Randy Arozarena rookie card,
yeah, just ask me. I
might want to wait a few months on that.
Yeah, I got
a good deal.
I got about 40 or 50 in one of those subs. So yeah.
Logan says he's holding out for $15 PSA subs. He may get them through a group submitter.
Yeah.
If they're 20 to 25 to the public, they very well may be 15 through a group.
Yes.
So again, I'm comfortable with saying there's going to be lower prices, but I don't know where it will settle, and they'll have to run the numbers. I'm doing this just back of the envelope math,
right?
Not with any knowledge at all.
Yeah, nobody to address Justin's question either. Nobody knows. It's up to PSA. They could drop that bomb and drop it whenever they want, or they could raise it, or they could suspend services, or bring in. But Lucky K says he was told they'll do 25 modern and 20 TCG hopefully by June. That would be quite impressive. I don't know if it'll be that fast, but that's where I could see them getting to, and I hope they do. So,
Justin, they've hired. I know that my old friend Scott Alpaugh is director of training at the PSA headquarters in New Jersey. I know that. So I guarantee if they've hired Scott, they've hired other good people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure.
So, so they're coming to New Jersey, and they're coming fast. And I think that's a great corporate move. It's also nearer where Nat Turner lives.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to then fly out to California every week.
Yeah,
he doesn't always have to leave $1 million worth of cards in his car in a rental car anymore.
Right. Yeah, for real. No, that was definitely strategic, and good luck, Justin. But yeah, so we'll see what happens there. But one thing I want to touch on, and Rich, while you're here, I'd love to get your thoughts on it. We had another huge Honus Wagner sale. Honus Wagner card's been in the news quite a bit lately, but we had one just recently sell for, what was it, 1.5 million, and I believe this one was cut too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's considered a damaged Honus Wagner, sold by REA, Robert Edward Auctions, and it's Brian Dwyer, who took it over from Rob Lipson a few years ago, and Brian has taken REA to places where Rob didn't really want to take it. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
Rob had stopped traveling. Rob has pretty much settled into, a nice twice a year auction house they're doing auctions almost every month at REA, and they're still turning over pretty amazing stuff. And that's because Brian and his team, they're out there. They're getting stuff at the shows, not just through the mail order, not just through their, through their customer base. So this is not the first Wagner they've sold, obviously, but it's always exciting when you see a Wagner sell. But if that Wagner sold for 1.5, Kendrick's Wagner, the PSA 8, even though it's trimmed, I mean, we can say it's trimmed because it's been testified to that in a court of law.
Right.
So I can say that without any.
Yeah.
What's that worth? 15 million now? 20 million?
Probably.
Gotta be.
And that's what I've always said. I don't care what they say. That one card is the exception to every rule. That card is the most famous card in the hobby. And at the $3 million he paid for it, it's going to turn out to be a real bargain, no matter what happens. You don't get that much money by being stupid, so to speak. That was getting the best known card in the hobby, one that a book was written about, for crying out loud.
Yeah, if there's a safe bet, I'd say that's about as safe of one as there's going to be right there.
But it also shows that the high-end market, and $1 million is a high-end card, even if the card is as strong as ever.
Yes.
And I know I posted in our group chat on Twitter that the high-end market has actually recovered from some of the downturn of late last year.
Yeah.
And it's done very well in the first quarter. That was a really interesting survey we got to read.
How many Tom Brady contenders rookies have sold for over $1 million this year?
Yeah, I know.
6, 7?
Yeah, something like that. It's been pretty crazy. But yeah, Rich, I agree. That high-end market is absolutely on fire. And, in our group chat, John Newman had mentioned, how it's really almost become two different types of hobbies these days, with the super high end and then everything else. And when you see sales like this, and when you look at markets, I think you definitely have to take that into a factor now when you're looking at the strength of markets, the strength of individual things, the strength of the hobby as a whole, because that high end market, I think, is almost becoming too big to fail. Almost like you said with that Honus, no matter what, he's going to bank on that $3 million, no matter what. I think a lot of this high end market is becoming so big that a lot of it is going to be almost too big to fail.
I think, as you would say, you're absolutely right, Drew.
I think so, yeah.
And there's a lot. The high end market is not only safe right now for those in it. There may be some dips,
of course.
Also, even in a down economy, the high end, it might even be a time they might even say, "I'll be able to get some bargains in that world." So it's actually a very safe place to be. If you like high end cards, this may be the best time to buy, because if they're really talking about a recession for next year, believe it or not, when the economy goes sour, you usually get more people becoming wealthy. It's a really strange conundrum. But, the people like you and me, we may not be doing as well, but a lot of people make more money than ever before in a recession.
And things like real estate, precious metals, fine art, and I guess you could put now in there high-end baseball cards.
Yeah.
Traditionally are good stores of value and are a good hedge against inflation, which is back with us for the first time in 40 years. So.
Well, and that's quite understandable why we have inflation. We basically had 2 years where we kind of just walked in place with everything, and now we're having supply chain issues. We have increased demand, people going back to work. All of a sudden, another reason the price of gas goes up. Well, all of a sudden people are driving to work again. Well, if you're driving to work, you're using more gas.
Mm-hmm.
If you're WFH working from home, well, you're not really using as much gas.
Right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. But no, I thought that Wagner sale was interesting, and just the high end market in general. I mean, it's if you scroll through some of these auction houses or Star Stock Card Ladder, any of these guys' pages, their Instagrams. It seems like every single day we're seeing a new record set for something. Doesn't matter the sport, really doesn't matter anywhere. That high end market's just exploding. Let's see who we got here. What's up, Retro Russell?
I saw Retro Russell at the smaller version of the Dallas Card Show this weekend it's like the Esport Expo Center now.
Well, how was that show?
It was good. Kyle and his team, and they just hired one of my former Beckett teammates, Joe White, who has hopscotched this year in the last 6 months from Panini to Leaf to now working for Kyle in the Dallas Card Show. They did draw a couple hundred more people than they drew at the last hotel show. I don't think you have actually walked into the smaller room when you came in May, but it's a room, which is the other room, the room near the garage at the Dallas Card Show, the room I now set up at for ComC. And it's got and that room has carpeting on the floor, so it's wonderful.
Oh, nice.
I like it. We're not moving from that room.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
And it was 140 tables, give or take. Attendance was, I'm going to guesstimate, 1,200 to 1,300 for the 2 days. Saturday was a rock star day. Sunday seemed to be slow, but it still drew for about maybe 450 people. We had a very nice ComC booth, and we had a really good location, and we were satisfied enough with what we took in for the price point of the tables. We're coming back in June, which tells you, that was good. We met a whole bunch of people, and and there were cards available for sale, and some good price, and some that you just shake your head and you say, how did these people ever sell a card?
Right.
And I mean, my best buy is I bought a bunch of Ozzie Smith rookies with typical centering, but really sharp at $10 each. Nice. So I was very happy with that.
Nice. Good amount of foot traffic, good amount of deals going on.
Saturday was busy. I mean, when I say Saturday, the room was busy. Yeah. The show ran from 10 to 5. We got busy about 11 o'clock, and it hit 5:02, and okay, we're ready to wrap it up. So that, remember, I'm not buying and selling. I'm just doing ComC work.
Right.
And we literally, and I had my teammates, Angela and Stefan, with me because they do the heavy lifting. I'm just there for decoration.
They're the ones that do the real work.
Yes, they do. Well, they're the ones that do the submissions. Stefan packs the boxes. I'm just there to yap, which says, we know I'm decent at. And, and keep an eye on things. And so, but we were very happy with Saturday, and I thought Sunday might be a little better than it was. And frankly, there were also a couple of, like, one of the major highways getting to Arlington was shut down going west. But right before the show, so that there may be some people who threw up their hands and said, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
So it might have drawn even more people with just a little more publicity and a couple breaks when it came to how to get there. So overall, it was a very successful show.
Good.
I do want to point out, and I know the person Stefan has done his webcast with is not always everybody's favorite person, but Chris has been a guest, I've been a guest, and I just want to do a shout out because tomorrow's their 200th and final show. And there's a lot to be said for doing 200 episodes of anything.
Of course.
We're in the one and change. 200 for 3 people. We have rotating people. Yeah. 200 for 3 total people. That's not bad.
No.
Final for now, I believe.
Correct.
Just going on hiatus.
Hiatus, right.
Yeah,
but it's still
about the cards tomorrow night at 10 Eastern.
Yeah.
11. It's 11 Eastern, 10 Central.
11 Eastern, that's right.
Yeah.
So
So I do want to give a plug. Stefan is
No, absolutely.
is my
Congratulations
ComC
on
teammate.
200,
So I want to
guys.
give a shout out,
Well,
and thank them for their service to the hobby too.
Oh, absolutely. They have a
Yes.
wonderful, wonderful show. Congratulations on 200 episodes, guys. And I know I'll be tuning in like I do every week anyway. But yeah, congratulations to Stefan and the team. That's awesome. And hopefully it's not a long hiatus because, like I said, love the content. But
Yeah.
but I guess we'll move on now, guys. One thing that Chris, I know you and I were talking about before the show started a little bit was, we saw the Tops kind of drop the preview cards a couple months ago, or I guess about 6-8 months ago, and then you didn't hear anything about it. Then today you find out Montgomery Club exclusive Tops Finest Basketball is back. Boom, it's out. Pre-orders here. General public probably either tomorrow or a couple of days, normally right after Montgomery Club. But Tops Finest Basketball is back.
With an asterisk.
Yes,
because
with an asterisk.
It's not licensed.
Yeah.
There are no current players.
There's one current player. Cole
okay.
Anthony, card number 1, and then one of the top high school prospects.
But the rest of the checklist is almost guys that appeared in Finest Basketball in the 90s, I would be fair to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's all these guys in street clothes.
Are there autograph cards in the?
There are autographs.
Yes. All it is a base set, which they haven't announced the exact parallels and everything, but there's a base set with some refractors and then an autograph version, and some guys are in the autograph version that aren't in the base set and vice versa, just one or two. But they only have parallels as well. There's no inserts from what I've seen. It's strictly the base set and an auto set and 60 cards, even though they have a gap between card 59 and 62. I expect 60 and 61 to probably be surprises myself, but maybe they decide to leave them out. I don't know.
Maybe.
But that's the general breakdown of the boxes. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
From what I've seen, and I don't live on my phone or I don't live on Twitter like some people, and I haven't been following as closely. Am I mistaken, or are these boxes fairly expensive so far?
Well, it looks like the original pricing was only at around $130 or $140, but I'm seeing pre-sales on eBay at around $750 to $800. So,
that's a nice profit.
Yeah, it's a pretty good profit. It looks like
if you can actually sell it at that price.
Exactly. I'm assuming that they probably settle, probably maybe around 5 or something, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I didn't think even licensed that the retro Finest baseball that they had, I didn't know it would do as well as it did, and it was a tremendous success. This could be a huge one. The checklist is, if you're a 90s guy like me and an early 2000s guy, it's got everybody you want in it. But like you said, it's street clothes, it's non-licensed. But I think it's kind of Fanatics' way of just reminding people, hey, basketball's coming, and we're about to have that license, so get ready for it.
I don't know if this is a Fanatics thing, because it seems to me that
Tops had it in the work before.
Yeah, you started to see players who signed for this product.
Yeah,
kind of put these on Twitter.
Yeah,
like around the time after it was announced that Fanatics was taking over the NBA license, but before it was announced that Fanatics was going to buy Tops.
Yeah.
So maybe this was going to be Tops if Tops never got bought by Fanatics, that this was their way of getting back into basketball.
No, I agree. I think that's exactly what it was. I think Fanatics following through with it and doing the Montgomery Club aspect is just kind of a way to get it in people's heads with OTE coming out to kind of just putting that basketball idea in people's minds for a couple of years down the road.
And remember, most products currently have anywhere from 8 to 11 months between gestation and being released to the public. I mean, and we're not talking about how the stuff's taking a year or two, like 2021 Big League finally coming up in April of 2022, or 2021 Upper Deck Premier Hockey finally coming out basically April 1st this year. Well, I mean, but your normal product cycle, at least with Panini, has traditionally been 10, 11 months in recent years.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is directly from the mouths of people at Panini. So we have a few more months of the Topps products that were begun before Fanatics bought them. And they'll probably have to let them ride to some extent with what has already been planned. You know, with the exception maybe if it's like a Topps Chrome coming out soon of getting some of the rookies into it. But the products will pretty much be baked, so to speak, and they'll be ready to go. And then I suspect, I think, what is it, August last year, September, when the purchase came. So we're starting to approach when you'll start seeing the effects of Fanatics. And they bought Topps in January. So it may even be another 4 to 5 months of, we'll call it the Topps non-Fanatics plan with maybe just some adjustments.
Yeah, I think it was Detlef Schrempf who, well, I think about it, who tweeted himself signing these finest cards back in August of last year.
And he didn't, and I'm just upset he didn't inscribe one Entertainment 720. Missed opportunity, Detlef. Come on now.
Well, I will tell you that one of the great hot parts of the market, and it always is this way, is I use the 20 to 25 year rule. You know, when Nick Redwine and his wife Debbie owned Nick Sports Cards, it's now been sold twice. Nick, the person Nick sold it to, has now sold it as well. But it was cars. The kids gave it up for cars, cuties, and college. Well, and then 20, 25 years later, you've established, you may have your family, you may have money in your pocket. You say, I want to get back into what I did when I was a kid. And so that player selection of the Detlef Schrempfs, I thought, memory tells me, and I could be wrong, that Dirk was in that set.
Yeah.
That finest set.
Yeah.
And
Shaq is in it.
Shaq is it. So the players that generation grew up with, the 20-25 year rule, this is a perfect set for people in the 20-25, what I call the 20-25 year rule.
I mean, it's right in my, like I was saying earlier, it's right in my wheelhouse too. I mean, even mid 30s, like this is when I was growing up, learning and playing basketball, watching all these guys play. It's got Tim Hardaway, my favorite player ever, in it, which you don't see in cards in many sets these days. Glenn Rice, guy I loved on the Hornets. So many guys that I grew up watching, you know, and then they've got the big name guys, the KGs, the bigger names as well. And then, like I said, you've got one active player, Cole Anthony, who does not have an auto, only has a base card, does not have an auto. And then you have the high school prospect who only has an auto and doesn't have a base card. So it'll be interesting to see how that is, because you've literally got a guy who's a high school prospect who intends to go to college and not OTE, that's going to have a Topps Finest branded product that's branded basically as an NBA product, even though it's not licensed, a pro basketball product before he's even hit college. And then he's going to have the college cards.
Right. And here, you know, with the NIL, I mean, I saw somebody in the transfer portal who signed for like $800,000 coming out of the transfer portal.
Yep.
I mean, it was just, you saw that, you said $800,000 in a car. Let's not forget the car, so he could tool around on campus.
Of course.
You know. And so will the transfer portal also become the bidding war? The bidding war for college kids? I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see what, if any, impact the cards are going to have. You know, if there's any cards that'll come out of all this. And could you imagine having the first, and this never happened, so I'm making this up.
Sure.
But let's say Michael Jordan started at North Carolina and got a better offer to go to Duke.
Yeah.
So you'd have the first Michael Jordan North Carolina card, and then the first Michael Jordan Duke card.
Right.
And some of that's actually going on with soccer, where they consider your first card, if you switch leagues, your rookie card when you switch from La Liga to the Bundesliga to
Bundesliga.
I could do that guy's goal call for 30 seconds, but I don't think anybody wants to hear that.
I don't think my voice could do 3 at the moment. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool product. I'm interested to see how it's received by collectors, though.
I have one other question on this.
Yeah,
product, and that's the branding.
Yeah,
the Finest branding. Are we at the point that Finest is now a nostalgia brand?
I would say so.
I kind of always thought as Finest as being, the cutting edge brand, the high tech brand.
Well, I'm just using the 20 to 25 year rule.
Heritage.
Chris, it's 20 to 25 years. And I know Finest began actually about 92. Actually, the first Finest set is 92 Finest football.
Yeah.
And so you're at the 30-year mark, and so it's a little past 2025. But it's 30 years. Stadium Club had a little bit of hiatus. They're past 30 years too. So some of these long-term products, and Topps was always, when they visited us in Beckett, they always stressed they believed in building brand equity. One of the things that happened with Fleer is Fleer would change from Fleer Showcase to Flair Showcase to Showcase to, they never built the same brand equity. And then they would call us and say, why isn't the product as popular as it should be?
That's why.
Well, nobody knows what you're going to call it this year.
And in regards to Finest, in basketball in particular, that nostalgia runs incredibly deep, because in the early 90s, the 94, 95 to 95, the first couple of years of Finest, that was, Chris, when they were leading the trend of technology, high-tech stuff, doing the refractors, the atomics, the stuff that nobody else was doing outside of maybe Bowman's best. Yeah, out there designs.
Especially in the basketball sets.
Yes, so in the basketball world, I think Topps Finest is really viewed a lot dearer than, let's say, football or something along those lines, or baseball even, something where you've had it forever and it never went away.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Finest was incredibly popular when it was taken away from basketball fans. So I think that probably has a lot to do with it as well. But we'll see.
Yeah, and Finest is a great name. And I mean, they could have just as easily called it Stadium Club, but Stadium Club was the brand for the photographs.
Yes.
If they're in street clothes, you're not going to have the fancy photographs. So if you're going to use a title back to the 90s, Topps Chrome or Finest.
Yep. Yeah, those are the...
And you're not going to use Bowman. Bowman is the home of the future players. So Finest makes sense on that level.
Yeah. Yep, because I would guess that Chrome's probably going to follow. I would assume those are probably going to be two of the ones that they actually do. And DR dead on with 2 comments here. Pacific football, one of my favorites. Pacific hockey as well had some of the best inserts in particular. And Flair, yes. Flair, one of my favorites of all time. So.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but one of the most amazing things about Pacific is something that was today would be much more accepted than it was when they were in their heyday of producing cards. But they had a small little retail store, Pacific Sports Cards, outside where they printed their cards and outside their corporate headquarters. It was actually the best test marketing you could do, was people actually would come in to buy cards of your product at your retail price, and it'd be interesting to see what sold and what didn't.
Yeah.
And back then we would say, oh, that's a conflict of interest. Today, with the hobby changing, that was actually a brilliant marketing idea. And I think Mike Kramer, in many ways, was way ahead of his time. doing things like that.
Yes. No, I completely agree with you. And John, dead on right there. Finest was definitely Prism before Prism was Prism. It led the way for everything. It started everything in terms of the refractor trend, which obviously Bowman's Best was, kind of doing at the same time. But Finest really took off first and led the way with a lot of innovative and iconic sets.
I just hope that they don't bring back like the whole gold, silver, bronze tiering from 96 and 97.
Yes.
I mean, the only good thing with that is you know what you're getting. I mean, if it's bronze, it's common. And it would say common, uncommon, or rare. So you at least knew what you were getting. I mean, so there is something to be said for that part of it, where the cards were in the condition, not the condition, but you knew what the scarcity level of each card you pulled was. So I'm not, that never
Once
really
you pulled
bothered
your gold card out of the box, you knew you weren't getting another one.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my card killer customized it, but my AI went on the back, card number 69, theme Ep.143, common, They made it very clear for you back in the day.
So I'm fine with what they did on that.
Yeah, same here. I'm curious to see how many parallels there are. They didn't release a ton of information outside of, hey, Montgomery Club, you can buy it. And there was apparently an extreme.
I'm going to take some bets. I'm going to set the over-under on number of parallels at 22.
I don't think they go that high. I'm going to guess they go like 4 or 5, honestly. 4 or 5, and then a refractor, 3 or 4 numbered parallels, and then the 101. I'd go with like probably 5 or 6.
Probably for a product like this, yeah.
It's only 60 cards. It's a 60 card set, and then 60 or 62 autos. You can't. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
I don't see this as being a heavily printed product at all.
And one thing when we talk about the number of parallels and like some of these Panini Prism products, even though it drives us crazy, Panini has their own focus groups, and they always told me, and I understand why, all these parallels give the collectors thinking they get more out of their boxes. You have to have people thinking they're getting things out of these boxes.
Until you try and complete the rainbow and you realize that you're not even a fifth of the way done and you've got 20 cards in your hand.
Yes, I think, believe me, I look at, in the ComC database when I'm doing some of the work, and it's like, they have this many variations, they have this many parallels of this.
Oh, man. Yeah. I have, and it's crazy too, because I have one on my wall. You used to be able to go to the craft stores and buy those displays that would hold 20 cards or whatever, and you could put 2 rainbows on it. And then and now you need a binder, and you need a pretty thick binder if you're going to complete any set. But really good question here to wrap the show up on today from DR. Any thoughts on why companies don't serial number SP and SSP cards? I have an answer, but I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Because they don't want you to know.
Yep.
That's
and
why.
The other thing is they may not know until they actually print them how many they're making.
Exactly. Rich, I don't think they do. I honestly don't think they know. I mean, I think in some cases they do, maybe like the white sparkles and things like that. I think they have a pretty good idea on some of them, but on things like Topps Series 1, things like that, update any of those or things like that, no clue. They don't know. There's no way they have an exact number, and I probably bet that most players that it's not a consistent number throughout every single player. Like some short prints, much more short printed than others.
Well, it's just like in Heritage when they do the throwbacks. The throwbacks are the toughest,
right?
The toughest ones, but they don't tell you how many throwbacks they made.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's probably
would be nice though,
Yeah.
But
No, it would be nice, and I'm sure there's
It'd
some of
also
these
be
guys
nice if they
that
didn't have these cards at all.
I'm sure there's some mathematicians out there in this hobby that would.
Oh, there are ways to figure it out.
Yeah,
Trust me.
but yes, you can easily figure it out. But then again, I think you're still it's still a guesstimation based on the data you're provided as opposed to everything else, and assuming that it's all the exact same number across the board. But the answer, DR, I think is unanimous. It's just they don't want you to know. And they don't know. Anyway, guys, I guess it's a good point to wrap up today's episode, as it is touching on the 10 o'clock hour. So, guys, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Hobby Hotline Overtime. Make sure to tune in this Saturday, of course, for Hobby Hotline at 11 a.m. with a all new cast of characters coming your way. Talk to hobby, anything else that comes down, and make sure to remember, call in, join the show. If you don't feel like calling in, hang out in the chat. Let us know what you think.
We had a great chat today. Lots of good comments.
Yeah, yes. Rich, thanks for jumping in, making.
Thanks for bailing us out, Rich.
Yeah,
anytime, Chris.
All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of the week, and we will see you guys on Saturday.
And
have a good one.
Keep on rocking in the free world.